I'm sure most of you already know, Trump has issued sweeping tariffs towards several countries. Talks about this have been rumbling since he took office and even before that. No doubt many of you heard about what was going on with Canada and Mexico, of course. Now, at the time, it seemed that this was very much a negotiation strategy. Of course, there was an effort to try to get Mexico and Canada to pay a bit more of their fair share when it came to trade with the US, but first and foremost, with those countries appeared to be the matter of negotiating better trade deals, better arrangements, whether it be more defense spending on Canada's part or Mexico taking a more active role in securing the border, whatever it might have been. But it also seems that this was something of a testing period. Behind the scenes, Trump and his team were doing investigations on how the world would react, how the public would react, and the conclusion is the proclamation he made just a few days ago. Liberation Day, America's Declaration of Economic Independence. Is Trump overstating what he's done? How significant exactly will these tariffs be? How will it affect the US economy? Not to mention the economies of countries all across the globe. Well, folks, you came to the right channel. We've been following this stuff closely, and if you've been with the channel for a while, you probably remember when we had said that Trump is drawing a lot of inspiration from William McKinley this time around. Though of course, Trump isn't going to be recreating McKinley's tariff policies one-to-one. The circumstances that our country is in at this moment demand a different approach. And looking at things very practically, we've got a good idea of where this is going to go. Hello audience, Mr. Z here with another video for you, and if you're new to the channel, welcome. We have videos like this every week. Well, actually, recently we've been missing a couple weeks now, haven't we? You might say that there have been a couple small projects on the side that I've been working on, but no spoilers, that'll all be coming out in due time. To all of you newcomers, welcome. We usually have videos out every single week on history, geopolitics, political science, and the like. So if you enjoy that type of thing, do subscribe and stay tuned. Very plainly, Trump's tariffs are reciprocal tariffs. There are countries, just about every single country in the world, that will charge us for the products that we send to them. Now, in the world that was shaped by the United States after the Cold War ended, we pushed for economic liberalization, free markets, and free trade, operating under this impression that free trade would mean fair trade. But for the United States, we found ourselves subject to a lot of unfair arrangements, and there were geopolitical aims for this. There was, of course, in the case of China, an effort to liberalize them, to push them away from communism and later away from authoritarianism in general, to open up their economy. This idea that if we just open them up more to the world, they would come to accept more of our way of doing things, but fast forward 30 years later and nothing much has changed. In the case of the European countries, as well as our Pacific allies, there was the impression that, well, we can shoulder a little bit more of an economic burden if it means that our allies abroad get a good deal and their economies are stronger so that they can hold off our geopolitical rivals. But now as the United States pushes away from global interdependence and focuses more towards self-sufficiency, we have to recognize that these unfair trade agreements aren't exactly practical, especially in regard to China. Cut and dry, our trade arrangement with China has been a failed project which only enriches them. Now, Trump's tariffs will match or nearly match the tariffs that these countries in question have imposed upon us, equalizing trade openness for fairer dealings. Australia, Chile, the UK, Morocco, and more have all had their tariffs matched at 10%. This seems to be Trump's flat rate across the board for several countries. However, countries that impose upon us a far higher tariff, such as China at 67%, Vietnam at 90%, Japan at 46%, Israel at 33%, among others, they've received what Trump calls discounted tariffs, far higher than those that were equally matched at 10%, but seemingly not surpassing 50% either because, as Trump put it, matching those tariffs would be just unfair. Which suggests to me that he aims to negotiate several of these tariffs to be lower. Funny enough, while Trump has imposed tariffs on Taiwan, Ukraine, and Israel, of course, he has not imposed any new tariffs, I should say, upon Russia. Now, of course, this is because, by Trump's justification, we do so little trade with Russia already, it makes no sense to tariff them either way. But there is also the unspoken geopolitical facet of Trump trying to negotiate peace between Russia and Ukraine, with Russia, of course, having the upper hand over Ukraine, and it not being ideal to antagonize them any more than needed. So what is the point of all this? Is Trump just trying to sabotage America's relationships? I mean, it sounds kind of paranoid when you put it that way. Trump has multiple agendas here. One of the most obvious, of course, would be closing the trade deficit. A lot of the trade relationships between the United States and these other countries is very one-sided. We buy a lot of their stuff, but they take almost nothing of ours. And when they will not buy anything from us, our businesses dry up because they have no one to sell to. By matching someone's tariff, we are imposing upon them the same restrictions that they have imposed upon us. Now, this is where Trump's tariff functions as a multifaceted tool, and it's much like I said earlier in regard to Mexico and Canada. Negotiation. Using a tariff as a means of negotiating is certainly something that Trump is working with. It's not the only reason, but using it as a negotiation tactic is something that's very, very evident, especially in the fact that he is offering these countries a reduced tariff, possibly signaling to them that, hey, let's sit down, let's come to an agreement, and we can work something out. We'll lower our tariff, but we expect you to lower your tariff as well. Now, the countries likely to be most impacted by this are those countries which do have a large trade deficit with the United States, namely China, Japan, Vietnam, South Korea, Taiwan, and India. The European Union as a whole is actually at the top of the list that I'm looking at right now. The tariff is going to have one of two main effects on countries. Either they're going to stand by their guns and refuse to lower their tariffs, in which case trade between them and us will be reduced entirely. And look, if they don't want any business with us, we don't want any business with them. However, the other major outcome would be that they recognize, look, US, we want to do business with you. Let's work something out, we'll buy more of your goods, we can continue trading with you at a lower tariff rate, and trade relations will be stronger. They will be better. More American products will be going out to other countries, domestic American production will increase, and this country and its people will grow richer. That's the aspect of closing the trade deficit. Then, of course, there's the negotiation strategy, and I already spoke a little bit about how reducing another country's tariffs might just be what Trump is aiming to negotiate for. But there are other things you can work with as well. Negotiating geopolitical arrangements, negotiating alliances, negotiating access to resources, raising our tariffs on countries that are dependent upon trade with us, which are dependent upon our markets. That gives us leverage. That gives us an ability to say, look, if you want access to our markets, you need to play by our rules. You need to give us something else, because this deal where we buy, but you never buy from us, that's just not working out. In the case of countries like Mexico and Canada, that can translate to better border security. Now, of course, there's the other big one, which is American self-sufficiency. The United States is not a small country like France or Germany or Britain. The United States is a large land empire. We have the manpower, we have the resources, we have the potential for domestic production to be fully self-reliant. The fact that some, 30 to 50% of our essential goods are produced in China, that isn't just impractical, that is hazardous, considering China's perception of us on the geopolitical scene. What was it as well? Pharmaceuticals. When we found out how many of our pharmaceuticals were based out of China, that people need on a day-to-day basis to survive. Things we don't think about, like the chips and electronics that are in more and more products, whether it's your TVs, your phones, and now your cars. Trump himself expressed an interest in bringing chips, ships, and manufacturing back to the US. Having more domestic manufacturing will not only create more jobs for Americans, but it's going to make America more self-reliant. In a situation of crisis, who knows what might happen? When any country in the world might turn against us. We don't need to depend on this country or that country, we have our own legs to stand upon. That's what it's all about. And of course, there is the point of the tariffs providing a new source of federal revenue. We've spoken about this a lot. There has been a lot of speculation as to whether or not Trump will abolish the income tax. It seems to grow more and more possible month by month. The rumors about this were swirling still when he was campaigning for president, but now they're getting louder and louder, and members of his cabinet have been articulating it. If Trump were to abolish the Internal Revenue Service in favor of the External Revenue Service, a situation where citizens of the United States no longer have to pay an income tax, and instead that revenue is subsidized by tariffs. Well, it's a complicated situation, because, of course, there's another side to tariffs that we have yet to get into. The tariff opens up possibilities for cutting taxes lower and lower. But now there's the other side of things. There is the matter that when you raise tariffs upon a country, whatever products are still coming into the United States from that country are going to be more expensive to offset the cost of importing them. And if a lot of these products are essentials that people need on the daily, that's going to hit a lot of Americans right in their pocket. While taxes might be cut back, the overall cost of living could increase depending on how much of your day-to-day life is dependent upon goods imported from foreign countries. This also creates a great deal of economic volatility. Now, if you happen to be somebody who trades stocks, you might have noticed the stock market is not taking the news of Trump's tariffs too well. And this is to be expected. I think it was just about a year ago I had put out a video on if Trump won the presidency, and I know it was a while ago because I think the other video I put out next to it was if Biden had won the presidency, so Biden had yet to drop out. But one of the points I had brought up is you'll probably have a situation where under Biden, the economy would have remained more stable, but there wouldn't have been any major growth. There wouldn't have been any major decline, but there wouldn't be any major growth. Under Trump, you have a lot more volatility, but this is a situation in which you're going to experience a lot of short-term pains for long-term gains. This is just sort of the reality of things. If you want to change things for the better, you do have to shake things up a little bit. And I had a conversation with some of my followers on the Discord server about this, where this is one of the problems with democracy, where if you want to change things, you're going to have to shake things up, and some people are going to feel very uncomfortable with it. And if they happen to feel uncomfortable when the next election rolls around, then you're going to be voted out of office right in the middle of you getting your project done. So everyone would have experienced all the hardship, and right as you're about to give them the results of everything that you've been working on, you're kicked out. And this is why, for over a year at this point, I've been saying the most important thing for Trump when he begins rolling out his agenda is he needs to have a plan for mitigation. Because he doesn't have to worry about what happens in 2028. What he needs to focus on is what's going to happen in 2026. Because if conditions in the United States are poor enough, not even poor enough, but just not sufficiently good enough, they're going to lose that election, and if they lose that election, Trump loses his Republican trifecta. Whether it be losing the House, or losing the Senate, or losing both, then he can't really get anything done. Trump's legacy as well also becomes imperiled by that, because mind you, a lot of what Trump has done has been through executive order, and he's been working toward getting Congress to turn these into proper legislation, into proper laws. But if he doesn't succeed in doing that, or Congress gets flipped against him in 2026, well then, whatever Democrat administration comes in, whether it be in 2028, or 2032, or at whatever point, that administration can come in and simply write away all of Trump's executive orders as though they never happened. So mitigation in this time of economic shakeup is going to be incredibly important. It's why if I were in Trump's position, I would find some way to abolish the income tax, because that is a significant chunk of people's revenue. And it's something that enough people feel pestered by, that if you were to wipe that away, then it could genuinely mitigate, not even just financially, where the tariffs that people are paying get offset by no longer having to pay an income tax, But emotionally, that frustration with having to pay more at the grocery store, well, now I don't have to worry about paying more at the end of the year, so it kind of balances out. But the key thing is that there's an opportune time to do this. It's not at the very beginning of the administration. The smart move would be to do it after you've gotten some economic hiccups, after economic conditions have gotten hard, when you need to give the American public some relief. But instead of giving them a little bit of relief, where you give them a tax cut, you just take the burden off their shoulders. And the income tax is just one aspect of this, but there are several ways Trump could work to mitigate the effects of the tariff. Mitigation, 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 that is going to be the word that will go hand in hand with tariffs. Could economic conditions worsen? Well, I would say expect them to get worse before they get better. I genuinely would not rule recession out of the question. Trump might be trying to trigger a recession so that we can handle that now instead of later. So that is in the memory of 2025 and not in the memory of 2026 when the election is happening. Doing the difficult things today so tomorrow we can celebrate. And that is what Trump is gunning for, because it's not even just the income tax. What did he talk about? He talked about having that massive year-long celebration for America's 250th birthday. That's going to be on July 4th of 2026 and continuing for an entire year. The celebrations are going to start months before Election Day. People will be swept up in good spirits all across the country. It's a very clever strategy and it could work. Now ideally, you can do the difficult things without having to cause a recession. But if Trump has no way of achieving those difficult things, of doing the things that have to be done for long-term success in the country, then it's possible he might be trying to get these difficult things over with as early on as possible, so that the public can reap the benefit of them when it's around time to decide whether they want more of this policy or less of it. But those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments below, like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more. Mr. Z, out.